Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Soul Health Mentor Podcast. Today we have another amazing interview, and it is with Jenn Adamson, a mindset and manifestation coach with an amazing story. And I just can't wait to dive in. Welcome, Jenn. It's so wonderful to have you.
Thank you, Nadia. I've been looking forward to this podcast and it's so lovely to be here. Thank you.
In preparation, I learned a little bit about you and I learned a little bit about your story. And I'm really looking forward to diving into that because it's such an inspiring story and I can't wait for the listeners to hear it. So I'm just going to start us off because I know things sometimes get hard before they get good, but I'm going to start with the good. So I'm going to start the question off with what inspired and empowered you to be here today to share your story?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that question on so many different levels. I think the biggest thing that inspired me is that, we have the power to create our lives. We have the power to alchemize and turn literal stuff that we can view as very negative, bad, crappy stuff, and we have the power to turn it into gold if we have that intention and we have that commitment and we jump all in. And that's really why I've been very excited to share my story on your podcast, is because that is a lot of what my story is.
So the thing that I had mentioned earlier, I love everything you said. I love it. Is that sometimes we have like a little, it's good when we're through, but
Yes.
sometimes in my own experience, we have like a messy wake up call from our soul and we kind of get put on a new path. Was that the case with you?
Oh, 100%. Yes. So, I'll jump into it if that's okay. Yes, very much my story. We had just talked about about how we tend to operate in a very nonlinear way. I like to, like you had mentioned, flow, and I like to follow the breadcrumbs. And I'm just naturally a very curious person. And so for me, that means sometimes I'll go down a certain path and then I'll be like, ooh, that sounds interesting. And that lights my soul up. So I'm going to follow that for a little bit. And sometimes that leads to a completely new path and it pivots and it transforms me. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm ready to set this down. I'm ready to go back to the main, right? The main path. And that's very much my life. I'm a manifesting generator, if you're familiar with human design. And so we often love to follow. We actually thrive when we follow what our heart is calling us to do. And so my story starts about 12 years ago when I was in the corporate world. I was in my early 20s and I was really hitting every benchmark of success. I was on that trajectory of reaching the mountaintop. I was getting promotions. I was the titles, the accolades, the money, the marriage at the time, all the toys, all the vacations. I was really manifesting, and because it was very much a co-creative relationship I was having with my faith. But my faith was, now looking back in hindsight, it was very surface level. I really had to dive deep these last 12 years, but I was really on this trajectory of quick, fast success.
Mhm.
I was hitting all of those milestones. I was speaking on stages and consulting Fortune 500 companies. And when I remember I kind of had this moment where I was waking up in the middle of the night and I couldn't shake off this feeling of panic and anxiety. And the one thing that kept coming to my mind is, what are you doing? You're not living in alignment with your soul and your purpose.
Mhm.
And for so long, for months, I would ignore that and just march on through like a soldier in battle, holding all of this pain and internal suffering inside of me. And I was feeling so isolated and so broken down and so powerless, until finally I came to a place where I was having suicidal thoughts and ideation. And that was the breaking point for me, is that was the point that I really surrendered and decided I've got to do something different with my life, because all of this success that I've wanted and I have easily achieved and manifested in my life is not bringing me the happiness and fulfillment and joy that I thought it was going to. And that was then the opening of a new path, the opening of a new journey. And I'm grateful because it's taken me to some really beautiful places, including India, where I got to teach. I got to study yoga and Ayurveda medicine, and that's when I really dived into the universal laws, and particularly the law of attraction. And then when I came back to America, speaking again of going with the flow and a windy road, I decided to go back to school to be a nurse. So I am a part-time practicing registered nurse right now. And I'm also now a life coach. I've been a coach for the last 2 years.
Yes.
And I love what I do because I get to bring in and really help high achieving women, which is primarily who I coach, how to bring in joy and satisfaction and fulfillment without compromising their high achieving qualities, because I love that I'm a high achiever. It's just that it's not the full picture. And so I bring in that spirituality and that science component too, to help them to really create the life of their wildest dreams, where they're not compromising anything. They're just enhancing, and it becomes this beautiful, beautiful existence and way of living.
There were so many gems in there. And if you don't mind, I would love to reflect back to you what really
Sure.
stood out. So the once we've gone through the dark night of the soul and we're out on the other side, it seems so inspiring and uplifting. But when we're hitting that rock bottom, it's really, really bad.
Ooh.
I just wanted to let the listener know that there is a realness about this, about following your heart and following your soul. And because you had mentioned that you are a manifesting generator and we have that in common, I just wanted to make sure to fill in the listener just a little bit. So I was going to ask you, do you know what your authority is, the one you live by?
I don't. I believe just now learning more about human design. I'm in no way an expert in it. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you probably know more than I do. It's either sacral authority or
I think
oh,
I think I know, but we're just gonna go there so the listeners just,
yeah.
and you'll know in a second. So when you said sacral authority, I'm a sacral authority. You just feel things in your gut. You feel
Yes.
your yes in your gut. And when you feel that yes, you go.
Yes.
And that's what we both have in common. So that is what we, as manifesting generator, just the very basics, because it's a system that's really deep, and that takes you into a deconditioning process when you get into it, and it takes you from your not self to your true self. It's like a roadmap for your higher self. And it's not done in 2 years. That's the misunderstanding around it, that just knowing your basic type tells you anything. But we can talk about this. And so we can let the listener know that we're both like that. We feel it in our sacral and we go and we have all this energy to do it. And that's that high achieving energy. And
Mhm.
you had a lot of success. You had all the toys and all the money. Now, I'll tell you my story. I didn't have a lot of success. I always ended up, I had this go energy and total go getter and seen as a powerhouse, but I was always fulfilling other people's agendas without the reward. There was no emotional reward. There wasn't very great fiscal reward, and I was killing myself. So
Mm.
my not self showed up, and this is what manifesting generators have in common together, is utter frustration.
Mhm.
And for me, it's even a little bit of rage. So when you end up not successful, utter frustration and rage. And that journey from the not self to the true self, you mentioned 12 years, and I've been on it for the past 11. I
Mm.
just wanted to give that context.
Yeah. it
It
puts things into perspective, doesn't it? It's that I think the biggest thing I get from that is that if there's anyone who's watching now, it's to start now because time is of the essence when it comes to being in alignment with your soul. And Nadia, I'm sure you can probably very much with a resounding yes attest to that this work never stops. As I grow, as I continue down this path, there's more and more and more opportunities for me to up level and grow and expand even more. And what that brings is human fear, right? Human emotions of fear, going back to the mind and the monkey mind and the ego, going back to stories of how, well, is this really going to work for me? Because back in 2000 or maybe 1999, when, Bobby said I couldn't do it because I wasn't smart in the first grade, that sort of, those stories come up. Those stories will, they it's just, I feel like that's part of the journey, right? And so it's about starting now and really asking yourself, what is your heart calling for you to do? And it may be as simple as picking up a book or listening to this podcast and allowing yourself to get curious and to put on your scientist hat or your explorer hat and allowing yourself the freedom and the space to make those mistakes because we won't ever get to where we want to be if you really stop and ask yourself, like, where do you want to be in 10 years? If I could give you a magic wand and no time, money, or where none of that was an object, it was limitless. You wouldn't be ostracized by your friends and family. You wouldn't be judged or condemned. What would you want? And then allowing yourself to know and realize and accept that where you are right now, it is a stepping stone. Everything is a stepping stone. We can't get to the top of Mount Everest in one night. We have to do so much preparation before a big journey like that. And it's the same when we're being called to walk in alignment with our soul's path and purpose. And so that's why it's like, just start now. It's like the biggest thing I can say is just start now. Listening to this podcast, reading a book, maybe you go seek therapy, maybe you look into hiring a coach, whatever it might be, start now because the process never ends, but it's so rewarding and it's so beautiful and it's so
Yeah.
worth it.
And it's so wonderful to have you here, share your story, because that wasn't an easy place to be. And then you trusted, and we're getting to the next thing I know about you, and I love that. I love that you believe that we all have a superpower. Would you tell us about that?
Yeah, yeah. I believe that we all have innate gifts in this world to share, and that the world desperately needs everyone to share their gifts. I have friends who are musicians and singers and artists, and that's their gift. My gift is storytelling and teaching. I love to teach through stories. I love to teach through sharing stories of how I've learned and where I've been the hero in my journey and where I haven't been the hero in my journey, and maybe someone else has. And so I think that's so important too. I think we all knew at a very young age. And one thing I can invite everyone to do is to, if you're struggling to really find out what your gift is, go back to when you were 3, 4, 5 years old. Go back to when you were a child and you were just in this amazing sense of pure wonder, and the veil, it wasn't there. You were connected. You were so connected to your soul and to source.
Mhm.
Go back to those things that really lit you up, and you'll find a lot in those. What did you like to play with? What did you like to dream of doing? What did you imagine? I remember I would love to be like on the stage. I love to speak, and I would pretend like I was speaking. I would like literally get all my friends and family and be like, okay, we're going to have this event and I'm going to speak. And I remember being like, oh, no one else did that as a kid. That was just me.
That's so cute.
But we all have a gift to share, and it's needed.
Mhm.
And it's needed. It's so desperately needed. There are people praying for you to show up and to share your gift with the world.
Yes. Yes, true. And then I always say, gift yourself your gift first.
I love that.
Because before you can give it to other people, if you're denying it for yourself,
Yes.
how are you going to give it to other people? So it takes this courage. And for you, it was a dark night of the soul. For me, it was as well. My body broke down as well.
Mhm.
And it's this wake up call where I'm like, I can't keep living like this. And then you had already shared that you started following the breadcrumbs and it took you to all these different countries and amazing experiences, and you did school. So sometimes activating your gift is just following the next
Yeah,
step in line, right?
beautiful.
You say it was your intuition guiding you.
Absolutely. Like 100% my intuition has guided me. If I look back throughout all of it, my intuition, and I am a very deeply spiritual person. I believe in the power of whatever you use the word, whether it's universe, God, source, your own inner guidance system. I believe in the co-creative power and the connection that we have with source.
Mhm.
And over the years, that just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. The more and more I look to greater and bigger goals in my life, greater and more expansive things that I can create a bigger impact on people's lives, the more and more it requires me to connect with both my intuition and my spiritual
Mm.
source of inspiration. It's the only way. It's the only way, because literally today I just woke up and I woke up in a panic at all the things I have to get done in these next few weeks. And it was like, if I rely on just my own strength, I would have been depleted hours ago. But
Mhm.
instead, I was like, I'm turning to you, universe. I'm turning to you. I don't know how this is all going to take place. And I'm going to trust. And I had an amazing conversation with my partner. And I was like, there you go. I'm back in that flow state. I'm back in my inspiration. I'm back connected with my intuition. And I'm here to share that story because it's not easy to always be connected to your intuition. There are tools and there's techniques and there's exercises to strengthen that. And I do that consistently. But I also get off track, right? I'm human. And so I veer off. I can spin out and totally go in a tizzy of anxiety of, this, that, and the other. But absolutely following my intuition, making that my priority, number one, making that a non-negotiable in my life, and then using the tools that I use, it always, always delivers more so than I could even imagine relying on my own strength.
I love
Absolutely.
that you mentioned tools because it's true. We go into a fitness studio, we have tools.
Yes.
There's such a thing as a spiritual fitness studio where we can train
Love
our
that.
spiritual muscles. And I would love for for you to maybe share some
Sure.
beginning tools if someone says, I want to strengthen my intuition, but I don't know how.
Yeah, I absolutely. The first thing I teach my clients and my group coaching clients is first thing in the morning when you wake up. And I actually learned this from another mentor of mine. I can't remember who it was, but first thing in the morning, don't check your phone, don't think about the million things you have to do. I will just place my hand on my heart. I'll take some big, deep breaths. And this is like a 30-second to a minute long practice. It's very quick. And then I say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I really get into that sense of gratitude. And then I say, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say and to whom? And
Mm,
that for me is like this true sense and like this prayer. It's like this request and this invitation for spirit to come into my world to
mhm.
intervene.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go and I'm going to do these things on my to-do list, but I'm giving you full power right now, spirit. I'm letting you really do the driving here, and I'm going to trust. And sometimes that just means I'm following my to-do list for the day. Sometimes that means someone calls me and I have this wonderful conversation out of the blue. I kind of allow that, like giving that first few breaths of the day when we wake up in the morning. And I notice that when I do that, it seems a little bit easier for me to make decisions now. it seems like I allow myself that space to kind of tap in if something is feeling right or not right. Maybe I'm feeling a little conflicted about something, or I feel like I'm in a crossroads. I'll really stop and give myself a moment to just place a hand on my heart. That just, like, the things that it does physiologically for our body to place our hand on our heart.
Mm.
They've done studies of the all the feel good neurotransmitters that go through, the dopamine, the serotonin that go through our body when we just do that simple thing. And really, it's about regulating our nervous system. If you take it from a scientific standpoint, it's about re-regulating our nervous system to allow ourselves to be able to operate at a higher frequency, which is a frequency of peace, serenity, calm. We deserve to feel that way. We deserve to feel that way, and we make better decisions that way too. And so you can look at it as either your intuition, or you can look at some clients will say, I'm just re-regulating my nervous system. And I'm like, great, whatever works for you. But the thing is like, tapping into that level really helps us to make decisions with clarity, with ease. And we do, and that's where we get to let things be a little bit easier for ourselves. It takes that pressure off. And then going back into, we can allow ourselves to make those mistakes. How
Mhm.
do we speak to ourselves when maybe we do something, we tried something new, but we didn't get the result we wanted right away? I mean, that's huge. That's also another tool I use with my intuition, is really speaking to myself the way I would speak to a friend, because we can be so mean to ourselves and we can put ourselves down. But I would never speak that way to my daughter or my best friend or my partner.
Mhm.
Never, never, ever, ever would I speak so cruelly. And so, how can we start to really look at ourselves in the mirror and say something nice? I
Yeah.
know that seems very, very weird. I get it. I can be a very skeptical person and be like, eyes rolling and be like, this is really silly and I'm not doing this. But it's those little tools that really, they build those muscles. They build those muscles.
I love
And
this. I love the simplicity of it.
amazing. Yeah.
And I did it. So for the listener, this is also a video. So when you're listening to the podcast, you might not see it, but on the video you see it. So when you were sharing the heart exercise, I did it with you. And
Mhm.
I love that you also explained it and said that you have some clients that say, "Oh, I'm regulating my nervous system." May I share what I noticed happening in my body?
I would love to hear that. Yes.
Right. So I'm placing my hand on my heart now as well. So, and it's literally the high heart also. It's a little bit above the heart. And I immediately noticed my body relaxing. And if I were to make a noise that goes with that, it's like,
Yeah.
and then and it goes so beautifully, this exercise goes so beautifully with out of your mind and into your heart wisdom, because we get into our monkey mind and we're like, oh my gosh, my to-do list, I've got to do this. And the moment I put my hand on my heart, I drop into my heart.
Yeah.
And it's literally just that act of doing that that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
It blew my mind that just by touching my body and putting my hand on my heart, I will drop out of my head into my heart. Thank
Yep.
you so much for that.
Oh, you are so welcome. That lights me up to hear that so much.
And it's so easy. And what you said, those few sentences in the morning, you can do that. We all have our rituals. And one of my rituals is have a cup of coffee on the porch before the day starts. And then there's no big deal. You just put your hand on your heart and you
Yes.
say those things and you start your day off right.
Yes.
And from there, you can learn. I'm sure you have many more tools to sharpen intuition and your divine guidance. And you got into the manifestation as well. You had mentioned that you went to India and then so it was intuition guiding you from one thing to the next. And then you became a life coach. And did you become a yoga teacher? You did yoga,
So,
Ayurveda, right?
funny story. I do integrate some yoga and breath work into my one-on-one sessions with my clients. But I don't actively teach yoga right now. But very funny side story, if I may share, if that's okay, is when I was in India, I had no intention of teaching yoga whatsoever. I just wanted to deepen my own practice. And then after I had studied yoga for, I think it was like, it was a month long intensive where I actually lived at the ashram where I studied about so after that was done, I moved to Western India into an area called Rajasthan. Short story long, what ended up happening is that this one woman was very persistent. She's like, "Oh, you just learned yoga. I need a yoga instructor." I was like, "No, no, no, you don't understand. I'm not teaching it. I just did it myself." So, this is where I want to share something too, because when we go into an alignment with our purpose, some beautiful synchronicities can happen. And so I decided, okay, what's the trouble in, teaching her a few yoga classes? I'll do it. Well, little did I know she was telling all of her friends and family, friends and yeah, really her friends, because her family, she was from Italy. She was telling her friends all throughout this town of Pushkar that I was teaching yoga. So she was bringing friends in. And I ended up having a lot of fun. I ended up teaching yoga the last few months in India. I never had to withdraw any money from my bank account or any ATM. I was totally taken care of financially. People were coming from, literally, foreigners and travelers from all over the country were coming to my class.
I love that we got onto the side story because and you said when you get into alignment with your purpose, the synchronicity happens. And when you allow yourself, so what I'm hearing from your story, and I want to reflect just because these are golden nuggets. I get so much joy interviewing you. And it feels like when you hit that rock bottom, you knew something had to change. You started following the breadcrumbs, and in following the breadcrumbs, connected with your faith and your intuition, boldly taking steps, being that manifesting generator. When you feel that yes, you go for it. You got this whole new path that the mind cannot contrive. The mind cannot know, but we want to know these things, and we don't start because we don't know. And
Yeah.
then you were taken care of, and then I can feel the joy and the pleasure. And now you're teaching high achieving women to extract that same kind of pleasure and joy, and then life becomes magical again.
Oh, so magical. So magical. But it isn't easy. It isn't easy to listen. I will be completely transparent. I feel like a lunatic right before a big up level. I feel crazy when I remember one time when I invested in a coach at a very high level and I felt insane.
Mhm.
I didn't tell anyone, but in my heart, it was a absolute yes. And here's what I want to share is that there is a difference between feeling fear and I'm unsafe and
Mhm.
this isn't good for me. And there's another kind of fear, a fear of a surface level fear. But if you really take a deep dive and you ask yourself, if X, Y, and Z were not an option, would I want to do this? And if the answer resounding yes, we are all resourceful. We can be creative. And sometimes the universe just needs a little indication that you're willing to take that first leap. It's like this beautiful relationship. We can't expect to be in this beautiful relationship with someone and we're asking them to take a leap of faith, but if we're not meeting them right there in the middle, we really, I need to meet the universe at some beautiful sacred point. And every time I've done that, right before I feel crazy. But
Yes.
this is what they say about what embodying is you can describe it or define it in so many different ways, but that's really it. Is like when I look at all the things I've done where I felt crazy or like a lunatic before doing it, it has been a beautiful transformation or a beautiful manifestation of and nothing but magic. But
Yes.
it's that fear that feels very like it, and it can feel very very scary
Yes. And
right before that big leap.
totally attest to that. And I'm also all for being transparent. And it literally is that analogy of the butterfly. The
Oh,
butterfly in real life, it's like an old identity dies. And we're so scared to let go of that old identity to become the butterfly. It's very human. It's okay.
Mhm.
And over the years, I've collected a lot of soul, I call them soul power mantras. Some people would just say affirmations, but there was one I discovered and I wanted to share it with you because I thought it was brilliant. I don't remember who shared it, but it's if mindset is king, embodiment is queen.
Ooh, that's powerful. I just got chills.
And
Wow.
it's so powerful. And every time, because it's also the dance between the masculine and the feminine. So yes, you were entrenched in the hustle culture, which is very masculine, very toxic patriarchy kind of structure. And then you've built yourself a life where your feminine essence can breathe.
Mm,
And I've had to do the same thing because I was working as a corporate health coach and the job was killing me and my spirit. My
mm.
body was getting unhealthy and I'm still trying to recover from it. It was 3 years and I'm also in the middle of life in the change. So all that stress didn't do me good. And that was the reclamation of myself. And even though the fear is there, the pain was greater.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I just contributed a chapter in a book that's coming out called Brave Women Stand. And I share in that, and this was totally downloaded, Nadia. So I like can't, these were my own words that were channeled on the paper. So I'm probably not going to say because I don't remember it. But when there's something beautiful about a strong woman being fed up, when
Mhm.
she realizes that of not the pain of constricting is far greater than the pain of expansion.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
love that you mentioned the book because I'll definitely share that in the show notes and then the listeners can find all the details about you. But I also want to ask where can listeners find you to learn more about the work you do, to follow you, to connect with you?
Yeah. So the best way is on either Facebook or Instagram. On Facebook, I'm Jenn Adamson, JennAdamson. And on Instagram, my handle is I am Jenn Adamson. And on there, I have lots of links for free resources. I have my 5 steps to manifesting with ease. I also have 2 free meditations to grow your inner radiance because really how we feel on the inside is then a reflection of our outer world. And then I also have a money beliefs meditation that you can download for free on there as well.
Amazing,
Yes.
amazing. This has been such an amazing conversation. I would love to end it just by asking you, is there in the moment, is there out of your mind and into your heart wisdom that you want to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I would say just to recap what I said is just start and allow yourself the space to make mistakes. Just start. By starting now, you can allow and trust that the universe is responding to your effort and your energy. And it doesn't need to be hard. You don't need to move across the country to India or to a foreign place. You can start right here in your bedroom, in your living room, in your home, in your office, and just never, ever, ever give up. Just jump right in, stay committed, and allow yourself some space to learn and to make mistakes and to explore and get curious and to always come back
Thank
and
you
speak
so
kindly. Yes, of course. Thank you, Nadia. This was
much.
such a joy.
It was. Thank you.